Okay, I'm going to show you how to make this cute little cat purse. And what's nice about it is you can put all your crochet hooks inside, and also any paper, any patterns that you're working on, as well as a pen. And it holds everything nicely on the inside. The yarn I'm using for the project is Karen's Simply Soft, and this is the white colored yarn. And then also the gold Red Heart Super Saver. And you could use any black colored yarn that you want, but this is a really soft black yarn that I'm using. Vanna's, I think it's her Vanna's Glamour yarn. And I'm using the Red Heart Super Saver, and this color is royal blue, and it's really pretty. The first thing we're going to do is use your white yarn, and we're going to do a slip knot. You're just going to fold the yarn over on itself, and then take your crochet hook, and again I'm using my G crochet hook or 4mm crochet hook, and just take your middle finger and thumb and hold at the base of the loop. Take your yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through that loop for a slip knot. And now you're going to go ahead and chain the length you want for your purse. So you're going to yarn over and pull your yarn through for your chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So keep chaining until you get the length that you want for your purse frame. I made mine a chain of 16. Now you're going to do a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So you're going to go into the second chain from the hook, and you're going to do a single crochet, and then you're going to do a single crochet all the way back to the end. Go ahead and do one single crochet into every stitch all the way to the end, and then come back. I finished doing one single crochet into every stitch, and now I have one stitch left on the end. Now in this last stitch we're going to be burying that loose yarn end, and we're also going to be doing 3 single crochet into that last stitch. So you're going to be going behind the loose yarn end, and you're going to be doing 3 single crochet into that last stitch. And now you should be turned around to the opposite side, and you're going to be working around in circles. And at the same time as you're doing one single crochet into every stitch on the opposite side, you're going behind that loose yarn end, and you're going to be doing a single crochet and burying the loose yarn end as you work. So go ahead and finish doing one single crochet into every stitch back across to where you started, and then come back. I've reached the end, and your work should be looking like this. I have one stitch left. Now in that last stitch I'm going to do 2 single crochet into that last stitch. And then I'm going to go into the next stitch, and then I'm going to do a single crochet, and now I'm turned around and I'm going to start working in rounds. But before I do that, I'm going to get a loose yarn scrap, or you can get your yarn marker. I'm just going to use one of my loose yarn scraps and just put it right where I left off. And now I'm going to be doing one single crochet into every stitch, all the way back around to the yarn marker. So one single crochet into every stitch around, back to the yarn marker. So now you can make it any length that you want. For mine, I made it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 rows of one single crochet in each, because I wanted to make it big enough to where I could put my crochet hooks in it or pens. So now what you're going to do, once you have the amount of rows that you want for the size of your purse, you're going to go ahead and keep doing single crochets towards the middle of the back. And then we're going to change colors there. So towards the middle of the back, then you're going to bring up 2 loops on your hook. Take the gold color or whatever color you're using for the top of your purse, and then just hook the yarn and bring it through both loops. Then you're going to chain 1. So you're going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and bring the yarn through for a chain 1. Then you're going to cut your previous yarn color that you were using and tie a knot. And now, as you work, you're going to bury your loose yarn ends. So make sure you have your white and your gold loose yarn end to the side. And you're going to go into the next stitch, go behind those loose yarn ends, bring up a loop, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over and go through both for a single crochet. And then you're going to do a single crochet into every stitch with your gold colored yarn until you've completed 10 rounds or 10 rows. So go ahead and do 1 single crochet into every stitch around for 10 rounds, and then come back and I'll show you what to do next. I just finished 10 rows of the gold, so here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I'm going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch. So you take your crochet hook and go into that next stitch over. Then you yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops on the hook for a slip stitch. And then you're going to go ahead and finish off, yarn over, and pull enough yarn through just to bury into your work. And now you're going to get your tapestry needle for whatever color you want the nose to be, and we're going to go ahead, I'm going to show you how to make the nose. Now I'm using my royal blue red heart yarn to make the nose, and you're going to go with your tapestry needle in from the inside and come up about halfway across. Leave enough yarn on the inside for burying your loose yarn ends, and you can kind of hold it from the inside so it doesn't pull through as you're making the nose. And then you're going to take and make the top right part of the diamond for the nose, the shape of the nose. So I'm going to go over 1 stitch and down 1 row, back to the inside. And just make sure that you're only doing half and not going all the way through to the back. And then you're going to come up from the inside. And I'm coming up and out 2 rows straight down from the top of the nose, and then back into the bottom portion of the right side of the diamond. And then on the opposite side, you're going to come up 1 stitch over and 1 row down, and then back down through the bottom. And then you're going to come out through the top and then over to complete the diamond. And then you're going to completely cover the center of the diamond. So just come out through the top. And then go straight down. And you're just going to keep going in and out until you've completed covering the whole diamond. So I'm just going to come up along the border of the diamond. So make sure you're inside the border of the diamond. And then go down back in until you've covered the diamond. And then once you've covered the diamond completely with your blue yarn, come back. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and finish it with you. Looks like we just need one more side here. Let's see if that'll completely cover the diamond. Yeah, that did it. So cover the diamond of the nose, and then you're going to come out through the bottom of the nose. We're going to make the mouth. So right at the bottom of the diamond, you're going to come out with your tapestry needle, and then just go down one row, straight down one row. And then you're going to come back up one row and over about, let me see how many stitches I went, about 1.5. So I went over 1.5 stitches and up. And then I'm going to go back into the bottom of the mouth to make the smiley face, the side of the smiley face. And then I'm going to go to the exact opposite side, same distance, and then back in. And then you have your mouth completed. So then you can just turn your work inside out and tie a knot. And then you're going to want to make sure you bury your loose yarn ends nicely, because this is going to be the inside of the purse. So just take and go through, making sure that you don't mess up the design on the face. Just take your yarn and feed it through the back of the nose. And then you can cut your loose yarn end. And then go ahead and bury your other loose yarn end the same way, and then come back and I'll show you how to do the eyes. So for the eyes, you're going to want the black yarn on your tapestry needle. Now you're just going to take your tapestry needle with the black yarn, and you're going to go in about a stitch over from a couple of stitches actually over with your tapestry needle from the inside. We're going to do the eye, and make sure you leave enough yarn. I'm just going to hold on to the yarn from the inside as I work, and I'm going to go up and over one stitch. So up one row and over one stitch with my tapestry needle. And again, you want to make sure you're only going through the front part and not through the back. And then you're going to go over 2 stitches with your tapestry needle from the inside, and then back down where you went in. And then you're going to go down one row and over one stitch with your tapestry needle, and then back up and in. And then you form the one eye. Now we're going to make the eyelash, so you're going to go up one row about midway on the eye with your tapestry needle, up one row, and then you're going to go up 2 rows and over one stitch in an angle, You form one eyelash, and then you're going to go over one stitch, and then you're going to go parallel to the one eyelash that you did. So up 2 rows and over a stitch, and that'll make it parallel. And now we're going to do the whisker. So you're going to go back in and out about midway for the nose and stitch over. And I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches for the one whisker, and then I'm going to go down 1 row, and you're going to be equal down 1 row directly from the upper whisker, and then you're going to go down 1 row. So you're going to go down and at an angle and straight down from the end of the first whisker, and then you have the right side of the face. So then you're going to turn your work up inside out, and you just want to tie a knot. And then you can take and bury through the nose, making sure that you don't mess up the design on the front. Just take your loose yarn in and bring it that direction. That way it buries your loose yarn in nicely. Go ahead and do that with your other loose yarn end as well. And then make the same design that you did for this side, do that on the other side, and then come back. This is how the face should look when you're done, and I really like the way the royal blue turned out. Now I'm going to show you how to make the ears. You're going to take the same color that you used for the nose, and in my case I used the royal blue color, and I'm going to do a slip knot. And how you do that is you just take your yarn and fold it over on itself to form a loop, and then I take my crochet hook, and I'm using my G crochet hook or 4mm crochet hook, and then hold the base of your loop with your middle finger and thumb. I'm going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and just go through that loop for a slip knot. Now you're going to make a chain of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you have a chain of 6, and now you're going to move up to the next row. So you're going to go into the second chain from the hook, take your crochet hook, go into the second chain from the hook, going to bring up a loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through both for a single crochet, and then just do 1 single crochet all the way back across. And then I have 1 more for the last stitch. So now we're going to move up to the 3rd row. So you're going to take your crochet hook, and you're going to chain 1. So yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through that loop for chain 1. And then you're going to turn your work. And you can see here how the yarn upslopes at the base of your chain 1. You're not going to work into that stitch. You're going to go over to the next stitch over. And we're going to do a slip stitch. So you take your crochet hook, and you go into that next stitch over, and then you're going to yarn over, and then you're going to pull the yarn through both loops on your hook for a slip stitch. And then you're going to do a single crochet into the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And you actually have one more stitch here. And sometimes it's hard to see, but you see the little curve of the yarn there. That's your last stitch. We're going to do a slip stitch into that last stitch. So you just take your crochet hook, go into that last stitch, and then you're going to yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops on your hook for a slip stitch. And then you're going to chain 1, turn your work, and then you're going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch over. So take your crochet hook into that next stitch over, yarn over, and pull the yarn through both loops on your hook for a slip stitch. Now you're going to do a single crochet into the next 2 stitches. So you go into the next stitch and do a single crochet, go into the next stitch and do a single crochet, and then into the next stitch you're going to do a slip stitch. So go into that next stitch, and then you're going to yarn over and bring the yarn through both loops on your hook for a slip stitch. And then you're going to chain 1, yarn over, turn your hook upside down and go through that loop for chain 1, turn your work. You're going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch. So you go into that next stitch, yarn over, and pull the yarn through both loops on your hook for a slip stitch. Then you're going to do 1 single crochet, and then you're going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch. And then you're going to chain 1. You're going to turn your work, and then you're going to do 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then you're going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch, and then you're going to chain 1, turn your work, and then you're going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch. And then you're going to finish off. So you yarn over and pull enough yarn through for sewing the ear onto your cat. So you can see how you have a triangle for the ear, and then you're going to make 1 more of these, and then we're going to sew the triangle onto the cat. Now you should have your 2 triangles completed, and don't worry if you have a slight curve on the side. That's going to go on the inside portion of the cat when you sew it on. But first, go ahead and set those ear pieces to the side. So 2 of them, set them aside, and now we're going to sew the purse frame on. Now for the yarn that you're going to use to sew your purse frame on, you can use either the white Caron Simply Soft or the gold. In my case, I'm going to use the gold color. So you need to have a tapestry needle that's small enough to fit through the purse frame holes. And then I just use this device to help thread the yarn through. So you just take the hook and put it through the eye of the tapestry needle. And then you hook your yarn, whatever yarn you're going to use for sewing. Just take it and hook it. And then once you hook it, you can bring the hook back through the eye of the tapestry needle. And to get the yarn to go through, what you do is you jiggle the hook up and down, and then that pulls it through easily. If you try to pull the hook straight through, it doesn't work. So I find that to make it easier to thread through, you just go like that and it threads through really nice and easy. Now you want to take your purse frame and open it up, and you want to center the middle of the purse frame hole with the middle of the cat, the gold portion of the cat. And then you're going to take from the inside You're going to take your tapestry needle and you're going to go into that top row. So the top row only with your tapestry needle. And then you're going to come through, pull enough yarn to leave a loose yarn end. And then you're going to take and go through the center hole of the purse frame. If I can go in there. So go through the center hole of the purse frame and pull the yarn through. Make sure you hold on to that loose yarn end as well. And then you're going to take and go across and down and out the purse frame. And don't worry if you're not into the purse yet. Just pull it through the frame. And then you can take a stitch over with your tapestry needle onto the purse and pull that through. And then you're just going to keep doing that, going about a stitch over from the inside, grabbing that top row only, and then come out the hole of the purse frame with your tapestry needle. Make sure you don't get tangled. I'm going to have to come out. You're going to make sure that you keep coming in through the inside. So now I'm just going to rethread. Make sure you come back through the inside so you don't get tangled. And then hold on to your other side so it doesn't come loose. And you can see how I'm sewing the purse frame in place. So then I'm just going to go across and down again. And then I'm going to come up about a couple stitches over, trying to stay even with the purse frame. And you can see how it's starting to sew the purse frame onto the wallet. So go ahead and keep going in and out until you've reached the side, and then I'll show you how to sew the side onto the purse. Also, make sure as you are sewing into the holes of the purse frame that you're going level with the inside of the purse, and then keep the side hole, the large side hole, along the side of the purse. So I'll just show you. As I go in, I'm going into the purse frame and I'm going down, and this time instead of the superficial row, I'm going down a row as I sew in through the front of the purse frame. Just pull that through. And this time, when I come up through this hole, I'm going to make sure that it's lined up with that second row. So I'm going to come up through the second row had it, and out with my tapestry needle. And now I'm going to go down. I'm just going to show you, it'll be easier. Make sure that your yarn stays nice and neat. You want the stitches to look nice and neat as you're sewing. And then you can see how the larger hole is lined up right along the side. So now that I'm in the inside, I'm going to come out through that larger hole, through the purse and through the larger hole with my tapestry needle. And now I'm just going to sew the larger hole in place. Make sure that all your yarn ends are pulled taut and nice and neat along the purse. And then along the side, make sure you're lined up along the side of the purse. And then you can take and go in and out. Make sure you don't get tangled with your purse frame. And then I'm just going in and out of the hole to make sure it's nice and secure on the side. Getting in the camera range. So I'm going to do that a couple of times, just going in and out of the side hole, and then come back, and then I'll show you how to move on towards the back. Okay, so I finished, and I went through it twice with my gold colored yarn. And now you want to take and make sure that your purse is lined up as you're going up to that top row of the purse, because you want to make sure that you're going in along the angle on the back of the purse. So I'm just going to take, I'm on the inside of the purse, I'm going to come out along the inside and out through that bottom hole of the purse frame. And then I'm going to make sure it's lined up along the, because I'm going to put the top row through these purse frames. So I want to make sure that those are lined up so I can do that. And then I'm going to go in through that second hole on the back, going up, and pull the yarn through. Each time I'm going to line up that top row of holes with that top row of the purse as I'm going up and sewing. So then I'm going to come from the inside, since I'm on the inside with my yarn, come out through the next hole. Making sure nothing gets tangled as I'm working. And now I've reached the top of the back. So as I go in, I can go and then grab the top part of the purse, the top row only, as I go into the top row of the purse frame. And now you can sew the top row Make sure that you go in and out just like we did on the front here. You're going to do that along the back, and then just make sure that as you're working, you're lining up so that your other large hole falls evenly with the other side of the purse. And then come back, and then I'll show you how to go down and to that larger hole. Alright, so now you can see how nicely the back looks as I'm sewing it in place. And I've reached the other side, so I just want to make sure that it's even with the other side. So I'm just going to pull it down to the row. Make sure that the two sides are even on the purse. And then once you have the sides even, you can take and start sewing with your tapestry needle down each hole and into the inside of your purse. And then just make sure your stitches are nice and neat as you go. So I'm just going to sew this with you. And then you're going to take and go into, I'm actually going to go down below, since I came out of the hole here. I'm going to go below the side, making sure that I'm lined up with that big hole along the side, and go below it, outside of the metal frame, just to make a neater stitch. And then I'm going to take and come up from the inside, right above the hole, the large hole, just like that. Pull it tight, and then go down through the large hole with your tapestry needle. And then I'm going to take and go below the large hole. And then I'm going to go up through the center. To sew from the bottom. And then I'm going to do that twice. I'm going to go up through the top and then down through the large hole. Doing this on video is a little awkward. It won't be this awkward when you're doing it. And then come up through the bottom. And the only other awkward thing is there is a little bit of a lip on the back side, and that's why it's a little awkward sometimes going in and out with the tapestry needle on video, but when you're sewing it yourself, you'll be able to get them in and out. Okay, so I just did that twice just to make sure it's nice and secure. And then I'm just going to take and sew up. So I'm just going to line it up again, making sure my purse frame is lined up with the top row of the purse. And then I'm going to come up from the inside through that first hole with my tapestry needle. And again, you have that little angle lip. So you just have to find your way in there. So go ahead and sew the rest in place, and then come back when you've reached the beginning, and then we'll take a look and see how to tie the knot and bury the loose yarn ends. I've reached the beginning, and you can see how the last stitch kind of went right next to the next stitch, and this is how it looks, but I'm going to go ahead and finish putting a stitch in between where there's silver and just finished sewing so it's completely covered by gold. So I'm going to take, you can do this or just tie your knot and bury your loose yarn ends here, but I'm going to go ahead and finish. So what I do is, if you do want to finish, what I'm going to do is just go in and through the holes. And then just finish covering. Let me just make sure I don't get tangled on the inside. Just fix my loose yarn ends. And make sure that your stitches as you work lay nice and flat. And I'm just going to finish sewing all the way around, only on the area where there's silver. So I'll make a nice pretty gold stitch all the way around. Okay, so I finished putting my gold stitch all the way around, and I really like the way it looks doing that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tie a knot right where I came back to the beginning. And then you could take your larger tapestry needle and then just take any loose yarn ends that you have, and then you can just bury them easily with your larger tapestry needle. So you just kind of weave your tapestry needle through. And then just cut any loose ends, and then it just makes it really nice and neat. So go ahead and bury all of your loose yarn ends, and then come back and we'll take a look and sew on our ears. So now we're going to place our ears onto the cat, and I take the curve, if you do have a little bit of a curve, and place that towards the inside, and take the long end that you left for sewing on the ear, and you're going to go back in through the tip because you want to leave that point for the top of the ear, and then just kind of weave your tapestry needle down to the area that you want to sew, and then just place your ear where you would like it. And you can kind of place both ears to see where you would want your ears to lie. And then once you have the ears where you want them, then you're just going to take and sew the ear in place. And make sure you only sew through the front half and not through to the back. So go ahead and sew your ears in place and then come back. When you're sewing your ear in place, on the inside, I'm just going to show you how I tie my knot. And then once you've tied your knot, you're going to take your tapestry needle on the loose yarn end, and then you can just kind of bury your loose yarn end anywhere behind the ear, because then no one can see the blue color. Just make sure it doesn't mess up the front. And then once you've buried your loose yarn end, just cut it. I'm just going to show you with the other one too, how I bury that one. just because you want it nice and neat towards the top. And then just kind of bury. And then cut the loose yarn in. And then you can see how the ear looks nice on the front, and then it also looks nice on the inside when someone opens up the wallet. So go ahead and sew your other ear on if you haven't already. And here is the finished cat purse. And here's what it looks like from the back. And then on the inside, you can fit your crochet hooks inside. Okay, I'm going to show you how to make this cute little cat purse. And what's nice about it is you can put all your crochet hooks inside, and also any paper, any patterns that you're working on, as well as a pen. And it holds everything nicely on the inside.